Jai Hind students, welcome back to my Python tutorial, and today I'm going to start the new chapter, Tuples. In the previous video you must have seen the list and the different operations that you can perform on the list. Now tuple is a new chapter, it's a chapter 12 of your computer science with the Python. In this chapter basically we'll talk about the tuple. As you can see here, the title I have written, and it's a chapter 12 of session 1 of mine. There are certain objectives of today. I'll try to complete it, like the introduction, then the creating and accessing tuples, tuple operations, and tuple functions and method. These are the objectives of today. Now, let's see what tuple is basically for. Tuple is one of the standard data type in Python, similar like the string and the list, but though there are some differences between tuple and list, that we generally create to store a sequence of element or sequence of value. But the basic difference between tuple and list is a very mutable, as you all came to know, because you can change the element at any particular position in the list. But in tuple, it's not possible. Tuple is completely, again, immutable data type. That's a basic difference between tuple and list. So in tuple, if you want to change the particular element position, not possible. It's a one of the data type that is sequential data type, that is a standard data type, that's a fundamental data type in Python, which allows to store the set of elements of different kinds. Set of elements of different kinds. That is what tuple is. I hope the definition of the tuple must be very clear now. What is tuple? It's one of the standard data type which allows to store the sequence of element, which allows to store the set of elements separated by comma, within parenthesis, within half bracket. That's a basic difference between tuple and list. In the case of list, you have seen the mid bracket. Mid bracket we use to store the list, but in the case of tuple, the bracket change with the parenthesis or the half bracket. It means if somewhere you are seeing this t equal to, it means it's a tuple, it's an empty tuple. So tuple element will store in the braces or half bracket separated by comma, mind it, and tuple is a immutable data type. That is what introduction is. Now how to create a tuple, that's of course will be the question mark, or will be there in your mind also. Let's see. To create a tuple, there are different ways or method we use. First and foremost, you can create a tuple. Suppose t I'm taking as an example because t indicate the tuple, and open close braces. If I'm writing in Python t equal to open close braces, basically I'm going to create an empty tuple. Mind it, it's an empty tuple. Since no element is there, if you want to store the element, and if it is a single element, mind it, then you have to store like 2 comma. If it is a single element you want to store, this is the one way to initialize a tuple with a single element. If it is a more than one element, so you can say t equal to 1 comma 2 comma 3. Now there is no need to again mention the comma after 3, because now there are more than one element. If you are using tuple with the in braces 1, and if somewhere you are declaring in the Python a one value within the bracket or braces of the tuple, your Python will not consider this as a tuple element, mind it, because this one value, if you are mentioning without the comma, means exceeded with the comma, will be considered as an integer value. Here 1 is an integer for Python. So you can never declare a tuple with a single element like this. So tuple can be empty, tuple can be with a one element if you want, tuple can be a many element, tuple can be with something like a ABC, comma BBC, comma CCD, this kind of element declaration you can also do. Tuple can be in the form of a tuple. If you want, you can say 1 comma 2 comma 3, you can say again 2 comma 3 comma 4 as a list element, you can say again 4 comma 5 comma 6, and Of course, you have to close with the braces. Now here I am creating a tuple with the 3 again element. This is a 0, this is a 1, this is 2, but the element itself is a list. It's possible. So tuple can accept any set of value, any kind of value. It may be a string, as you have seen. It may be a number. It may be a list itself, or it may be a tuple itself. Tuple can have a tuple inside it, and once a tuple having a tuple inside it, then of course is a nested tuple, as you all know. So this is how to create a tuple: empty tuple, tuple with a 1 element, tuple with a 3 integer, tuple with some string, 3 string, and tuple with a list. This always you can create a tuple. You can also create a tuple like t equal to, there is a method tuple which is called tuple constructor. Mind it. Tuple is a method in Python which create a tuple. Of course, it will create an empty tuple like this. If you run this statement in the Python, it will create a t as a tuple, but it's an empty tuple. You can pass the value in this within the parentheses. Then the situation will be like tuple, and inside the bracket, if I said a, b, c, d. Now, I am passing a sequence of the value as a parameter to the tuple constructor. It will create a tuple t, but the element will be a, comma, b, comma, c, comma, d. It means your tuple will be like this. I hope it must be clear. You can create a tuple by simply using the tuple method without any parameter. In this circumstances, you are trying to create a tuple just like a t equal to open equal to bracket, that's an empty tuple. And if you want to create a tuple by the tuple method with some initialization, then you have to pass that sequence of value within the parameter or inside the bracket of the tuple method, and your tuple will be created like this in this circumstance. That is how we can create a tuple. That's the second point, creating a tuple. I hope creating a tuple must be very clear. So it's up to you what way you want to create a tuple. You can accept the element from the users, and you can also initialize the tuple. That is also possible. That we'll also see. But here there are different methods to create an empty, or to create with a 1 element, to create a set of integer, to create with a set of a string, and to create with the list of element, or list as an element of a tuple, or to create a tuple by the tuple method, which is called tuple constructor. Why it is called tuple constructor? Once you are talking about a tuple class and the method name itself is a tuple, then that method is called constructor, otherwise also in every programming language. So here tuple is a constructor method which creating the t as an tuple. So this is how to create a tuple. Now to access the element of a tuple, we have a different method. Tuple element can be accessed. For example, suppose this t equal to, I have a and b and c and d. This is a tuple I having, and I want to access the element of it. So if I'll say t, and then again same like in the mid bracket, if you'll mention 0. So again you have to understand t0, if the print command you will use, or simply at the command prompt you will say t0, it will give you a, because this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is -1, -2, -3, -4. Mind it, accessing the element of a tuple is similar like a list. So if you have a concept of the list, now you have already, you can easily access the element. If you'll say t of suppose -1, it means you are talking about the last element, so it will give you d as an output. So d is the output. If you'll say suppose t of -4, then again you are getting a as an output. As you can see, -4 is at that. So your indexes of the tuple element is similar like the list, which always start with the 0 position, and 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 from left to right, and right to left it's a -1, -2. Whatever the index position you will mention with that, you can easily access it. For example, if you want to traverse the all element of the tuple, then what you'll do? Simply you'll use the for method. For loop you all know. So for I in, and then you can say t. Now t is my tuple and having the a, b, c, d. So what I wrote for I in t, it means each element of the t will come to the I, and one by one you can see the element, and you can say print. Now the question is what you will see. You'll simply see I, and it will print A, B, C and D as an element. This is how you can access each element of the tuple. The length method, as you have used in the case of list, can be also used here. For example, if you want to access each element of the T, then another way is you can say T equal to L equal to len of T. So first of all, you have to find out the length of the tuple, that is T in this case, and by the using len method. You all know len basically find the length and is stored in L. What will be the length? 0, 1, 2, 3. It means the 4. So L having now 4 element or 4 as a length. Now use the for loop for I in range, and the inside bracket you will simply say 0 comma L. L is a length and 0 is a first index. So for I in range, here I am mentioning 0 comma L. It means L minus 1. It will go, L is a excluded, not included. It means 0 to L minus 1 it will work, as you all can. So I having the value of each index from the 0 to the last, because L means 4, 4 means 3 and 3 is the last index in this case, as you can see. Now here you can use the print command, print, and then inside it you have to use your tuple name, and then inside the bracket you have to use the I. Now once you use this, print T of I, basically I am referring the index of T, and index of T is a 0 first, so it will give you A, then the B, then the C and the D. This is how you can access the each and every element, or you can traverse the tuple or entire element of the tuple. So either you can use the indices, you can use the slices even also, same way how you use again in the case of list. So if someone is saying T of 0 colon 4, it means it can take the 3 parameter, it can take the 2 parameter. 0 comma 4 colon 4 means it will start from the 0 and it will go till 3, third, because 4 means 4 minus 1. So it will show you each element like A, B, C and D, if T having A, B, C, D as an element. Because I mentioned the starting index 0 and ending is at 4. If you are mentioning the 2, then it will start from the 0 jumping by 2 and it will go till 3. So 0 plus 2, it means it will go here, and then again 2 plus 2, 4. So 4 mein there is no element, so it will give you A and C only. Since I have mentioned the 3 parameter in the as a slice 0 colon 4 colon 2, in this case this is a starting, this is a ending and this is an increment. So here I mentioned, otherwise by default it's a 1 again byte it will jump, or 1 index will jump. That's why it will give you A and then C, because after 0, 0 plus 2 is a second, and second element is a C, and 2 after that it will go to the fourth and there is no element at the 4, so it will only give you A and C as an answer. So this is how to access the tuple element and how to access a tuple. So creating and accessing a tuple, I hope, must be very fine. Now let me to rub and let me to go to the next again objectives of today. Now we have a tuple operation. Now different operation you can perform on the tuple like a list, and you all must be knowing the list now. Now only differences is you cannot change the element at a particular position in the tuple. So tuple operation plus, similar like a list. 2 tuple can be added with the plus sign. If there is a T equal to or T1 equal to, if T1 equal to A, B, C and D, these are the element of T1, and T2 equal to suppose 1, 2, 3, 4, and you want to add it, so you can simply say T1 plus T2. If you want, you can store in the T3. So T3 equal to T1 plus T2, this is very right statement. You can add any two tuple, any 2 tuple and more than 2 tuple together by the plus sign. So plus concatenation operator or addition operator simply use like a list in the tuple and help us to add a tuple. But mind it, you cannot add a tuple or anything in the tuple, like if someone is using T1 plus 2, not possible, error in the Python. If someone is saying T1 plus ABC, again error in the Python, because this both sides should be the tuple type. Mind it, if you are using a tuple, left and right, or the tuple that you are adding should, or data you are adding should be a tuple in nature. Here 2 is not a tuple, so it will give you error. ABC is a string. You can't add a string like this in case of tuple plus operation. Then you have a star. Now a star multiplication, as you all know, simply you can use the T1 star 2. If I'll use the print command, suppose print command I'm using, and I'm writing T1 star 2, it means I want to repeat the T1 2 times. So if T1 is the same ABCD, so your output will be A, B, C and D. And then again it will go for A and B and C and D. Mind it, here 2 times you are seeing the same element because star is 2 times, or you want to multiply 2. You can use an in operator and not in operator. We have 2 things, in or not in. So you may ask something like A in T1. If someone will say A in T1, what you will get? True as an answer, because this A is available. If you say A not in T1, it will give you false because it is there. So in and not, then you can compare the 2 tuple also, like T1 greater than T2. Now depend on the T1 and T2 condition, it will give you true and false. That depend on what circumstances you are talking. If the value are same of T1 and T2 having the same number of element and the value same, it will give you true. Otherwise it will give you false. If there is a T1 having 1, 2, 3, 4 and T2 having 1, 2, 3, in this case it will give you true. Or you may say T1 equal to T2. So you can compare with the equal to operator. Here T1 and T2 will be only equal ones, both having the same element. If 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3 there, it will give you true. So relational operator you can use, addition operator you can use, multiplication you can use, in and not in operator you can use. These are the different tuple operation you can perform. I hope this much must be very fine. Now we have a tuple functions and different methods. We'll discuss that. Traversing a tuple, we also talked traversing a tuple for loop. I had shown you already. Joining tuple is already there. Slashing a tuple is similar like a list you can do, and if you got in the list easily you will be able to do. Now comparing a tuple, as I mentioned, you can compare the tuple. Now deleting a tuple. Deleting tuple you have to see. Now there is a del method, as you have seen in the case of list also, del, and then you use the list and then the element you want to, but here you cannot use any element of the tuple. A single element cannot be deleted, mind it. If I'll use the T1 and then I'll use an element name, it will give you simply error. Though in the case of list it is very right. Reason, tuple is immutable data type, and once tuple is immutable data type, you haven't a right to delete a particular element from a particular position. Reason, it's immutable. So this statement of yours is wrong. If you want to delete a tuple, simply you have to say del and T1 without anything, and it will delete a tuple, complete tuple. So no element will be left. That's possible, but you cannot delete, you cannot change a particular element position in the tuple. So this is how to delete the tuple. Now tuple functions and method. Lan function we already talked. Lan, just to find out the length of tuple, you have to mention the tuple name, and it will give you exact length of it, like A, B, C, D. It is 4, so it will give you 4. If you give the print command or command prompt, you will write the lan T1, and T1 you declared like this A, B, C and D. What it will give you? It will give you 4 as an answer. That is a lan. The second method of yours is a max, MX, max, and then you have to pass the tuple name, suppose T1. In this case, mind it, it will give you the maximum of a tuple once a tuple having the same kind of element. Keep that in mind. it will give you the maximum value of a tuple T1 once T1 having the all elements of similar kind, because you cannot compare the A and 5. If the A and 5 or 3.4 or ABC are the element of a tuple, suppose T4, and then we are applying the max T1, it will give you error. But if the T4